Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tehrani. Thanks for watching. We are coming to you from Interop 2010 in Las Vegas. On our program today is David Cocchiara, who's with Lancope. David, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Rich.
Thanks for being on our program. So, best way to start off is at the beginning. Tell me about your company.
Well, Lancope is the leader in Netflow collection and analysis, and we use the collected Netflow, we analyze it, and we provide global visibility for large enterprise companies worldwide.
So global visibility, that allows me to basically see what's happening on my network, right?
Correct.
End-to-end.
End-to-end visibility, whether it's virtual, physical, remote locations, if you're on an MPLS network, all the new things that are coming into, as you're seeing at the show here, you know, all the convergence that you're seeing in networks today, and the different technologies or different arrangements of the network, we're able to provide monitoring and management and complete visibility over all of those.
So you said virtual versus physical. So like a VPN, is that what you're kind of getting at?
We can monitor traffic on VPN networks. We can monitor or on the VPN connections. We monitor traffic, like I said, on virtual. We started, you know, initially we used to do a lot of physical. We monitor router and switches, monitor the behavior of users, monitor the behavior of network interfaces, and the typical activity. But as the virtual environment is growing, as you hear a lot here, whether it's virtual or it's cloud computing, we've created a way to extract data from the virtual servers or the individual servers on a virtual device and monitor that in the same way. So the types of things we monitor for: network behavior, typically if network is being utilized or interface is being utilized appropriately, bandwidth's being used more than normal. If certain user activity happens to be abnormal, so a user's doing something that they wouldn't normally do or that you wouldn't expect them to do, whether that's downloading files, whether they've been infected with a virus or it's a worm outbreak or something like that, we track that type of abnormal behavior. We also track, you know, typical normal network characteristics, round trip times, things like that. And we do all this with a three-tiered architecture and a limited deployment of appliances. We actually use Netflow. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Netflow,
Sure.
The output traditionally from Cisco devices.
Sure.
And we use that, run it through about 150 proprietary algorithms and some other magic. We're able to tell people, you know, what's normal, what we've seen historically that baselines as normal.
Sure.
And then when we see deviations from that, can report, alarm, let people know what kind of things are going on.
So have you seen changes in the business in the last few years?
We have. We've definitely seen an increase in the adoption and interest in Netflow. So Netflow's been around for 15 plus years. When we first introduced our Netflow product in 2004, some companies, some of the larger enterprises were talking about it. Netflow used to kind of get a bad rap as being heavy on the overhead for the network infrastructure devices. But as Cisco's kind of furthered their development of Netflow, it's not as bad. So people can now turn on Netflow in their infrastructure, and they realize that Netflow is providing them with a lot of key characteristics and attributes of transactions, communications on the network, and they don't have to put probes or sniffers or other types of devices on their network, which now that these fully meshed MPLS networks and remote locations, you know, large retail establishments are all talking to each other. You can't put a probe everywhere. So you can get the information out of Netflow. We analyze it, report on it, and provide, again, that visibility from all over the network with a handful of collectors, because they're just collecting the Netflow from the network itself, reported up to a management console and used by network teams, security teams, the data or server teams, virtualization.
So can I set filters and alarms and things like that?
You sure can. Yeah, so baselining is done both intuitively by the product and also during implementation. You look at certain types of activities. You may have much lower thresholds for more critical sections of your network or critical applications, and you may have other thresholds for your outside traffic.
Now, if you look at the globe, are there certain parts of the world that are more interested in what you're doing?
We've seen a lot of interest domestically. Netflow adoption, I think, has happened more here in North America than it has internationally, but we've seen a lot more over the past 18 months. We see other types of flows, whether it's S-Flow, you know, some of the Foundry Brocade or HP type of flow telemetry, which we also look at. We don't just look at Netflow. But we're seeing the international market start to look at other ways. You know, all these companies are global now, and they're trying to figure out how they can monitor their global network, get that visibility, find out where things are going wrong, and track performance from a handful of devices located wherever, whether it's here or internationally.
So what's next for the company?
Well, we just announced a 10 gig product. So we do not only do we collect Netflow, but there are certain places in our network where Netflow is not enabled. So it might be remote location, doesn't have router or switch that can turn on Netflow. So we've created a flow sensor that will actually plug in and generate Netflow records, send it to our collector. We analyze it just the same way we'd analyze it from a network location. We've just announced a 10 gig version of that sensor that will actually have 10 gig interfaces, and large enterprises that have these 10 gig uplinks can now use that collector to get the same level of analysis.
Are you getting requests for 40 gig also? Is that coming?
No,
or not yet?
We haven't seen that yet.
No. Okay.
And so the next step for us is not just network monitoring and behavior of the network, but now application performance. Application performance is a big push right now. People want to know how everything's performing on the network. What's my user experience?
Right.
And so in our next release, which will be in the fourth quarter of this year, we will have application performance capabilities, both in our flow sensor as well as in our virtual flow sensor.
It's very exciting because as things move to the cloud, that seems to be just a common challenge that companies have to deal with, is just how to make sure these apps are performing correctly, right?
Yeah, it's all about the user experience now. I mean, users, I heard somebody say it earlier today, is it availability or performance? And people aren't as concerned about availability now. They really are concerned about performance. And how do you monitor that? How do you stay ahead of them and make sure your users are taken care of?
Sure, because it used to be that the apps were, let's say, reaching out to the network infrequently, and now they
live on the network.
Yeah, so you really, that network's really got to be up all the time, and it's critical that you measure every piece of the traffic puzzle from beginning to end, right?
So our customers, and I heard a customer say it 5 years ago, and I've heard customers say it as recently in the past 3 months. Our solution is really like the eyes and ears of the network. They get so much visibility and so much rich contextual data out of what we provide that they're able to use that as their first stop to monitor all the activity, the performance of the network, and now coming up application performance as well.
Sounds like you're well positioned for the future. Thanks for coming on and spending a few minutes in the TMC newsroom. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rich.